June is over and done, which means we are officially halfway through the year of 2022, which means it's my time to, for the first time ever, to do the mid-year book freak out tag. Hi guys, welcome back, bienvenue, and all that jazz. It's time to talk about some books. Let's talk about the highs, the lows, all of the things to do with the books that I've read in 2022 or things that I'm looking forward to. This is the mid-year book freakout tag, which I feel like at this point is just a BookTube staple. So let's just jump right into it. So question number 1 is your favorite book you've read so far this year. So this, like for most booktubers, is a difficult question to narrow down to just like a single book. I would say it's between either Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer or Age of War by Michael J. Sullivan, and they're favorites for very different reasons. So Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer is very classic fantasy, very quest fantasy. We have boy from fishing village actually has hidden magical powers and is kind of chucked into being the center of this like conflict. And it is very much like this sweet friendship between these two guys. At the very core of this story, there are evil wizards that want to drain the magic out of natural magic users so that they can drink the essence to cast spells. There is kind of an evil dark lord looming. There is lore to dive into. It's just phenomenal. And I've been waiting for book 2 for so long, and I haven't heard anything about it. It was originally supposed to release earlier this year, and we still don't know anything about it, but I'll be here for it when it comes out. And then Age of War is book 3 in the Legends of the First Empire series. And just, there were some moments and some like, oh, fuck, that's happening moments. And it was just like so good. The ups, the downs, the excitement, the emotions. It was just phenomenal. But anyways, that brings me into book 2, my favorite, book 2, question 2, my favorite sequel was obviously Age of War. Like, that is the best sequel I have read so far this year. Hi, Katya. Katya wanted to say hi today. Hi! So this is Katya. She is the voice that you hear when somebody's screaming at me while I'm filming. That's her. But anyway, so my favorite sequel of the year was Age of War. And it's just so good. But I've already talked about that, so we'll just keep chugging along. So question number 3 is a recent release you still need to get to. And so for me, that's Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. I am so into different mythologies and stuff like that. And so just like this Chinese mythology, there's some romance in it, and it just sounds so good. And that cover, come on. It just looks phenomenal. So that is a recent release that I still need to get to. Then number 4, an anticipated release. So I just did like an anticipated releases video for Q3 of 2022. So you could really insert any book from that video. But I'll say it's kind of a toss-up between The Dawn of Yang Chen, which is the new like novel in the Avatar: The Last Airbender universe, following one of the previous avatars. So this is the previous air nomad avatar, Yang Chen, before Aang, who is the main character of the animated series. And so I really liked the Kyoshi duology, and I'm so excited to check out the Yang Chen books by that same author, FCE. And then obviously, like most basic-ass, I'm looking forward to The Lost Metal, which is book 4 in Brandon Sanderson's Era 2 of Mistborn. And there's also a read-along going with Angela over at Literature Science Alliance and a bunch of other people like Jess Owens and Elliot Brooks. I think sometime over this weekend, Angela will be releasing like the announcement video for that read-along. So if you want to join us and read along for all of the first Era Mistborn books, you are welcome to do so. And that should just be super exciting. But those are some of the books that I'm looking forward to. Then question number 5 is my biggest disappointment. Can you guess what I'm going to say? What do you think was my biggest disappointing read of this year? And that is obviously House of Sky and Breath, book 2 in the Crescent City series. I won't belabor the point here. The plot is just, oh, you want to go now? Okay. 1 second. Just like the plot and a bunch of the different points in that book just did not work for me personally. If you want more information about how I feel about House of Sky and with like all of the spoilers, all of the thoughts, feels, emotions, I'll link my spoiler-filled review video for you. But by far, House of Sky and Breath. Then, to kind of balance out the disappointment, the biggest surprise for me was The House in the Cerulean Sea. So, I had been hearing about that book, obviously, for quite a while. It was a booktube darling for a hot minute. And everybody always talked about how sweet it was and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, yeah, whatever. I'll get to it if I get to it. Then I was talking to Jashana and Ingrid, and they were like, no, I think you should really read it. So I did, and oh my God, it was so cute. It was so good. The sweet, slow burn male-male romance, the adorable children, all of it just phenomenal. It was like a hug in book form that I needed so desperately, and it was phenomenal. So if you haven't read it and you've been putting it off like I did, you should read it. And then the next question is a favorite new or new to you author, and so that would be Michael J. Sullivan. I've read the first 3 books in the Legends of the First Empire series, and the next 3 books are on my July TBR, and just, it has this combination of like classic fantasy kind of setup with elves and dwarves and things like that, but they're tweaked just enough that they feel fresh, and it like sits firmly enough in like my classic fantasy nostalgia to like pull on that. But then he also does like these emotional gut punches. Like few authors have I ever read that have been able to do it as well as he does, and just like that more modern take on fantasy where like nobody is safe, and like just top tier, awesome, phenomenal. Can't wait to continue reading from him. Definitely a new favorite author of mine. Then the next question is new fictional crush. So like many of us old-timer booktubers that are old, I don't really get crushes on like fictional characters. I don't even really get like celebrity crushes. So for me, I'm going to say my favorite couple in a piece of fiction that I read, and for me that would be Nick and Charlie from the Heartstopper graphic novel series. If you know, I watched the Netflix adaptation and loved it so much. It like was so wholesome and sweet, and yet also still touched on like deep themes and the experience of growing up being a gay person in high school, and just, oh, it was so good. And so after that, I went and read all of the graphic novels that are currently available. So I read the 4 volumes that are currently like in physical print, and then I read what's available so far of volume 5. And just Nick's and Charlie's like supportive, sweet relationship is just everything. So favorite couple by far, Nick and Charlie. Then the next question is new favorite character. So my new favorite character would have to be Manon, and you can't have Manon if you don't have Abraxos. And these characters are from the Throne of Glass series. So Manon is an iron teeth witch, and Abraxos is like her wyvern mount. And oh good lord, the arc that she goes on is phenomenal. Like at first when I was doing the buddy read of Throne of Glass with Jashana and Ingrid, I was like, they'd always be like, oh my god, Manon, and I'd be like, okay, but like she hasn't done anything. And then by the time I got to the end of the series, I was like, okay, I see why you guys love her so much. Like, phenomenal. Manon and Abraxos, we stand them on this channel for all time. They're like my new book babies. I just love them so much. Then book 10 is a book that made you cry. So I am kind of a heartless, cold bitch, and I don't cry when I read. I don't even really cry while I watch media. Like sometimes if there's something particularly sad in like a movie or a TV show, I'll get like a little bit teary-eyed, but it's not like I'm like sobbing my heart out. And so some of the books that brought me the closest to that would be some of the books in the Legends of the First Empire, but I feel like I've talked about that to death. So instead, I'll talk about Kingdom of Ash. So there is one scene in particular involving the 13, and if you know, you know. And that scene, when I got to it, I remember just like stopping. I was just like, oh my god, because it was just everything. And it was just like so moving and just like goosebumps, phenomenal. So if you know what scene I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, feel free to DM me or something, or put in the comments down below and just give like spoilers and a bunch of spaces, and I'm happy to like talk more about that particular scene with you. But that got me close. That got me close. Then like usual, this tag balances out with the other opposite of that. So a book that made me happy. So obviously House in the Cerulean Sea. But also, I recently read The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axio. And that just felt like almost like Spirited Away in book form, but with like Korean mythology. And it was such like a cozy, fun read that I read just like in like a couple days. It was fantastic. So The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea is basically, there is this village that is being like wrecked by these periodic storms, and they believe these storms are caused because the god of the sea is upset with their people. And so every year they sacrifice a beautiful maiden to this sea god in hopes to like placate him so that he will stop destroying their village. And our main character in the very first chapter like sacrifices herself instead of the maiden that was planned, because that maiden is her brother's like fiance and she doesn't want to split up their love, so she sacrifices herself in their place. And it is a story of destiny and finding yourself and family and just awesome mythology. It's just fantastic. But it does very much give Miyazaki's Spirited Away vibes with like little spirits and the spirit world. It's just great. And it definitely made me happy. Then the most beautiful book you've gotten this year. I mean, I would say one of the most beautiful books I've gotten is like everything in the Legends of the First Empire, because my friend Jashana got me this beautiful box set, and just like the cover art is everything. They're all this like gorgeous cover art, and so these have to be some of like the most beautiful books I own. I think that's probably the most beautiful books I've gotten so far this year. I know that I have like another Illumicrate version coming of We All Fall Down, which the book itself is beautiful. The synopsis and early reviews, not as beautiful, but the book itself is gorgeous. It should be here next week, but obviously I haven't gotten it yet, but I've seen like pictures and stuff of it around on Instagram, and that is a beautiful book too. But I would definitely, I don't know. I would have to say Legends of the First Empire, because I think those covers are just everything. And then the last question is, name some books that you would like to get to by the end of the year. So, I mean, I would like to get to the rest of the Legends of the First Empire. I would like to reread all of Mistborn Era 1 and reread Era 2 and prep for Era 2. I would also like to, I had the arc for The Hunger of the Gods, but me like a dum-dum, I don't know why I ever requested that arc, because I haven't even read Book 1, The Shadow of the Gods. So I would like to read The Shadow of the Gods and The Hunger of the Gods. I would like to finish off The Wheel of Time. I've read the first 11 books as well as the prequel novella, so I just have the final 3 books written by Brandon Sanderson left in The Wheel of Time, and I'd really like to get to that. So for me, kind of the rest of this year is hopefully finishing off some of the series that I'm in the middle of and getting to some of those new release arcs that I've been sitting on for a while and just kind of getting caught up, if you will. But yeah, so I mean, those are some of the books that I would really love to get to by the end of the year, and hopefully I will. I won't bother tagging anybody because I feel like almost every booktuber and their mom and their grandma and their like dead fish from elementary school do this friggin' tag. So those are my answers. If you aren't a booktuber and you want to kind of like talk more about these, maybe give me some of your answers to some of the questions that really speak to you in the comments down below. And while you're down there, like usual, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, if you want to see more bookish shenanigans like this from moi. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!